The next escalation by Karen and her HOA was so extreme it bordered on the absurd and the dangerous. They had apparently instructed local law enforcement to shoot if they resist during any confrontation with me, a threat that was as shocking as it was reckless. This was no idle harassment. It was a declaration that they intended to use force, even lethal, to assert control over my property. But they had once again underestimated the combination of preparation, evidence, and strategic foresight I had meticulously developed over years. It began with a series of unusual communications. Anonymous tips, half-formed threats, and subtle warnings hinted at their plan, but I didn't panic. Instead, I began a comprehensive survey of my property, identifying every vulnerable access point, potential choke point, and area that could be manipulated for leverage. Every entrance, driveway, and perimeter was carefully documented, and I installed sensors, cameras, and automated alerts that would notify me and law enforcement instantly of any unauthorized approach. Then came the boldest part of my counter-strategy. Using heavy machinery and precise excavation, I began digging trenches along critical access points to my property, particularly areas where the HOA had previously attempted to trespass or intimidate. These weren't random ditches. They were engineered to prevent vehicles or individuals from approaching without notice, while remaining safe for anyone who had authorized access. Each trench was recorded on drone cameras, geotagged, and documented in legal filings as a protective measure for my property. When the HOA attempted their next intrusion, they encountered an unexpected reality. Their previous strategies, intimidation, faux officers, verbal threats, were all neutralized by physical evidence and calculated deterrence. The trenches prevented unauthorized vehicles from entering, while alarms and surveillance documented every step they took. Karen and her followers, expecting compliance or chaos, found instead a perfectly prepared defense. The confrontation escalated briefly when an overzealous HOA agent attempted to drive a truck toward the main entrance. The vehicle became stuck in the trench I had carefully engineered. Attempts to free it only drew law enforcement attention. Within minutes, officers arrived, reviewing the evidence of both attempted trespass and prior threats. Karen's orders to use lethal force, which had been passed down through HOA channels, became clear in the documentation. Her reckless command, once hidden, was now verifiable and damning. I presented the evidence calmly. Recorded communications, prior threats, and video documentation of her agents being trapped and immobilized by the trenches. The officers, impressed by the clarity of the case, ensured that no further attempts would be tolerated. Karen's audacity had placed her in direct violation of multiple statutes regarding threats and unlawful command, and she could no longer hide behind HOA authority. The aftermath was decisive. The HOA board distanced themselves from Karen, fearful of liability, and neighbors who had been hesitant to challenge her finally saw the extent of her recklessness. My property remained fully secure, every threat neutralized, and every action documented for legal reinforcement. By turning an imminent danger into a controlled, documented event, I once again demonstrated the principle that had guided every confrontation. Preparation, legal awareness, and strategic foresight always triumph over impulsive aggression and entitlement. The trenches were more than physical barriers. They were a symbol of the strength of knowledge, foresight, and calm authority against chaos. Karen's credibility and power were irreparably damaged. Her orders to law enforcement to use lethal force had not only failed but had also exposed her to criminal liability. The community now understood that the HOA's threats were empty without legitimate authority, and my response became an enduring lesson in how preparation, evidence, and legal grounding turn potential disaster into undeniable victory.